It's the scariest thing about a horror movie isn't always what's on the screen. Sometimes it's the poster. For decades, these incredible pieces of art have done more than just sell tickets. They've given us a roadmap to our collective nightmares. They're meticulously engineered to mess with our subconscious, using color, imagery, and composition to spark fear and curiosity before we ever see a single frame. From the classic monsters of the 1930s to the terrifying tech of today, the evolution of the horror poster tells the story of how our fears have changed. So, let's journey through the decades and see how the art of terror has transformed, one terrifying poster at a time. 1. The Golden Age, 1930s to 1950s, selling the spectacle. Back in the early days of cinema, horror wasn't about subtle, creeping dread. It was a spectacle. The goal of a poster was simple: sell the monster. In the 1930s, Universal Pictures basically invented the genre with its classic monster movies, and the posters were just as iconic. They were usually lush, detailed, hand-painted illustrations that put the creature front and center. Think of the 1931 poster for Dracula. It's all about Bela Lugosi and his piercing eyes, promising a supernatural threat. The poster for 1931's Frankenstein does the same, focusing on the monstrous result of science gone too far, which perfectly captured the era's anxiety about mankind overstepping its bounds. The posters from this period followed a clear formula: big, stylized text and a dramatic slogan that spelled out the terror for you. The artwork was vibrant, almost like a comic book cover, designed to grab your attention from across the lobby. And when Technicolor hit the scene, these posters exploded with shocking colors. The 1954 poster for Creature from the Black Lagoon is a fantastic example, with its sickly greens and lurid yellows that make the monster seem both horrifying and strangely alluring. These posters weren't just selling a film. They were selling an event, a creature feature, a chance to see the grotesque made real. The fear was always external, a monster you could safely stare at from your theater seat. 2. The New Nightmares, 1960s to the 1980s. The terror within. As society rolled into the turbulent 60s and 70s, our fears started to change. The anxieties weren't just about monsters in faraway castles anymore. They were about the darkness behind a neighbor's door, inside our own heads, or just under the surface of the water. This shift led to a dramatic change in horror poster design. Suddenly, the key wasn't to show everything, but to hint at the terror that was waiting in the dark. Alfred Hitchcock's 1960 poster for Psycho is a perfect turning point. It's stark and fractured, using jagged lines and high contrast. It doesn't show you a monster. It shows you a creepy house and a terrified woman, implying the threat is psychological, not physical. The design itself feels broken, perfectly mirroring the film's theme of a shattered mind. Then, in 1975, came one of the most iconic posters ever made: Jaws. The artwork by Roger Kastel is a masterclass in minimalism and tapping into primal fear. We see a swimmer, totally oblivious, while a massive shark rises from the deep blue beneath her. The poster uses negative space as a weapon. The sheer vastness of the ocean makes the swimmer look hopelessly vulnerable. The shark is mostly hidden, forcing our imagination to do the scary work. And that bold red title just screams danger and blood, a color choice that hits a primal nerve. The Jaws poster perfectly captured the movie's core idea, the fear of the unknown. This era also gave us the slasher, and with it, a new set of terrifying icons. John Carpenter's Halloween from 1978 created an unforgettable image from just a pumpkin and a knife. The poster is dark and minimalist, with a menacing, fiery glow inside the jack-o'-lantern suggesting a hidden, burning rage. It doesn't need to show the killer's face. It creates an emblem of terror that's instantly recognizable and nails the fear of evil invading a quiet suburban holiday. In the same way, the poster for 1973's The Exorcist is famous for what it doesn't show. We just see a man standing outside a house with a mysterious beam of light glowing from a single window. That simplicity is what makes it so chilling. It creates an atmosphere of suspense and leaves the real horror up to us. 3. The blockbuster boom. 1980s to the 1990s. The franchise formula. The 1980s was the decade of excess, and horror was right there with it. The slasher genre, which Halloween kicked into high gear, became a box office goldmine, and this new commercial focus changed poster design. Where the 70s went for minimalism, the 80s went big. Posters were less about subtle art and more about building a brand. The main goal? Make the villain an unforgettable horror icon. The 1984 poster for A Nightmare on Elm Street is a brilliant example. The design is a perfect fusion of fear and dreams. It puts the terrified face of the hero, Nancy, right up front, while the sinister face of Freddy Krueger and his famous glove loom over her. It's a literal picture of the movie's concept, a monster that attacks you in your subconscious. That poster made Freddy a star, and his silhouette would define the marketing for the entire franchise. The Friday the 13th series did the same thing, building its whole visual identity around the hockey mask. Poster after poster cemented the image of Jason Voorhees as an unstoppable, masked force. The art often felt like a collage, showing the terrified cast with Jason's mask floating ominously above them. This formulaic approach was everywhere. Many posters from this era felt more like a checklist of a movie's key scenes than a single artistic idea. But there were exceptions. Near the end of this period, in 1996, Scream came along and cleverly tore down all the genre tropes. Its posters showed it. It went for a stark black and white look with clean portraits of its ensemble cast. While it still had that floating heads design common at the time, its high contrast, almost elegant style hinted that this wasn't just another slasher. It was a smart, satirical take on the very films it was referencing. 4. The modern era, 2000s to present day. The art of anxiety. As we moved into the new millennium, our fears became more abstract. The rise of the internet, 24-hour news, and deeper conversations about trauma and mental health created a whole new world of anxiety. Modern horror posters have reflected this, often returning to the minimalism and symbolism of the 70s, but with a sharp, contemporary edge. The poster for 1999's The Blair Witch Project was a game-changer. It was just a creepy stick figure against a black background. No monster, no blood, no screaming face. It sold a mystery, an idea, and it perfectly captured the film's raw, found-footage style. It proved that in the internet age, a simple, powerful symbol can ignite massive curiosity. In recent years, the rise of what some call elevated horror has given us posters that look more like modern art. The poster for The Babadook doesn't show a monster. It uses a dark, spidery silhouette to represent the crushing weight of grief. The one for Hereditary shows a warped, dollhouse-like image of the family, suggesting the real horror is buried in their own twisted legacy. These posters use visual metaphors and unsettling compositions to dig into complex psychological themes. They even mess with the traditional color palette of horror. The poster for Midsommar, for instance, is deceptively bright and beautiful, using sunny yellows and clear blues to create a feeling of hyperreal, cult-like dread. And that brings us to M3GAN. The film premiered in late 2022 and became a viral sensation upon its release in January 2023, with its marketing leading the charge. The main poster is deceptively simple, an extreme close-up of the idol's face, her eyes locked on the viewer. It's a perfect use of the uncanny valley, that creepy feeling we get from something that looks almost human, but not quite. A lifelike yet chillingly cold stare plugs directly into our modern fears about artificial intelligence. Social media and tech that's getting a little too smart for its own good. The marketing brilliantly took this image and ran with it, like when the trailer featuring M3GAN's creepy dance went viral on TikTok, proving that a poster's core idea can evolve and completely dominate the digital world. Just one thing. Before we finish, I have to ask, what's the one poster that's always stuck with you? The one that terrified you or just fascinated you before you even saw the movie? Drop it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the art of fear, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. To conclude, a mirror to our nightmares, from the spectacular, hand-painted monsters of the 1930s to the minimalist dread of the 70s, the franchise-building icons of the 80s, and today's psychological art, the horror poster has been on one heck of a journey. It's so much more than just an advertisement. It's a cultural artifact, a visual record of what keeps us up at night. These posters reflect society's changing anxieties, from the fear of mad science to the killer next door, and now to the technology in our own hands. And as our nightmares continue to shift and morph, one thing's for sure: the art of horror will be there to give them a face, forever finding new and terrifying ways to get under our skin.